now you can save 20% off Truck Stop Load Board Pro for 6 months. The best tool for serious carriers. Don't miss out. Click the link in the description to get 20% off Load Board Pro for 6 months. Need capital to grow your business or cover unexpected expenses? Rock Financial has your back. Whether you're looking for a flexible line of credit, a fast cash advance, or tailored working capital solutions, Rock Financial makes it simple to get funded, often in as little as 24 hours. No hidden fees, an easy application, and real support from people who know the business. Ready to take your hustle to the next level? Tap the link in the description to get started with Rock Financial today. Wish insurance was this easy? With LogRock, it's like magic. Real coverage appears when you need it. No tricks. Get covered now. Click the link in the description.
Warning: the following content contains strong language and may not be suitable for children. This content is primarily for adults, as this is a trucking channel and truckers have filthy mouths. Please don't tweak if I say. Viewer discretion is advised.
What up? Come on in, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on all post notifications. How's everybody doing this afternoon? How is everybody doing this afternoon? What's today? Thursday, July 24th. Come on in, make sure you guys hit the like button. Shout out to SD Walk in the building. Shout out to everybody that's part of the MGM gang. Shout out to all the moderators. Who else we got? Kelvin. Shout out to Marie. Shout out to 5 Star. Come on in, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications. Guys, make sure you click the link in the description below for Rock Financial. If you need business funding, you need funding for your box truck business, your semi-truck business, your cargo van business, working lines of, if you need business lines of credit, working capital, you need funding to purchase your equipment, business loan, Rock Financial has the answer or the solution for you. Make sure you click the link in the description. If you need commercial insurance for your trucking business, your cargo van business, click the link in the description below. I always get Rock Financial and Log Rock because they both got Rock in their name. Sometimes I'll be watching a replay, I'll say Rock Financial, but I'll really be doing the pitch for Log Rock. So if you need commercial insurance, make sure you click the link in the description for Log Rock below. If you're coming into the business, obviously you need commercial insurance. Click the link in the description. If you're up for renewal, you're 60, 90 days up for renewal, start shopping. Don't wait till the last minute. Click the link in the description for Log Rock and see what they can do for you to help save you some money. Come on in, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications. Shout out to everybody coming in. 5 Star. Nope. I was just talking shit. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to go out and do a social experiment to motivate somebody else to go do what they're supposed to do. Last night I said it and I thought about it, but then today when I thought about it again, I said, bro, I'm not doing that shit. Like I don't like the most motivation or inspiration he gonna get from me is the time that I spend talking to him. I'm not gonna go out and prove nothing to a grown man that has a bunch of responsibilities. And when I say responsibilities, I'm talking about human responsibilities on the opportunities that exist. No, it's crazy to me that the people who it seemed like people that have less responsibility, and I'm not talking about like asset responsibility like houses and business. I'm talking about responsible for other people. It seems like today people that are responsible for other people, meaning parents, right? People that don't have those responsibilities work harder than the people that the thing that should make you want to go out and work harder, which is children, which is what we saw our parents do back in the day, it's like the complete opposite now. That's what I'm trying to say. I see people that are young YNs that go out and work extremely hard that don't have those responsibilities. And the people that have those responsibilities, they just make excuses. I don't know what it is, but it is what it is. So come on in. Shout out to William Sweet. Shout out to Asma Rowland. Shout out to Pippi. Shout out to Marie. So I want to talk business. We gotta get back to business, and we got to get the mindset in order. Uh, a lot of the reason I said last week why a lot of these guys that come into trucking fail, I'm just boiling it down to the mindset, like wasting time trying to get a person to understand they cost per mile and operation costs. You see how I have to debate with guys, and then they'll say some dumb shit like, "Why I need to know how much it costs me to run my business?" Like literally, you'll see people come up on the channel, young guys, and well, why I need to know that, who I'm giving it to. Like we've seen people say that. So I just feel like to continue to go down that path is just a waste of time, bro. Right? If a person's mind ain't right, they not gonna understand why I'm telling them, yo, you gotta understand and you gotta know what it costs you to run your business. The reason why they don't understand is because they don't have the right mindset. So the mindset has to be correct first in order to educate somebody on the landscape of business. I'm not going to keep wasting my time. It's a lot of other shit that I could be talking about, you know what I'm saying, that could, help out people more. It just is what it is. But after having this conversation last night with Daniel, I want to talk today about this job shit, right? Me personally, I think is really, really disrespectful, especially with the young generation, how they just, shit on people that work jobs. And they don't work. You built a business, da 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 da. Why it's okay for you to build a business and I can't build one? Da 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 da. A lot of the people that ask that question, you don't even have what it takes. But just because a person builds a successful business, I'm not going to never shit on a person that works a job. The crazy thing is a lot of the people that shit on people that work jobs, your parents work jobs, and majority of these people that shit on jobs, parents still work jobs. But then when you ask them why you want to start a business, they say some stupid shit. At least tell me you want to make money so you can retire your parent early, or you're tired of seeing your parent slave. You tell me some dumb shit. You can't even give me a really good reason on why you want to start a business. All right. If you are a failure as an employee, 9.5 times out of 10, you're gonna be a failure as a business owner. And that's fact. And you can't say I'm making it up because majority of the people that come into business fail. The mindset is different. It's just not they fail now because that's just the landscape of business. They fail because they just don't even have the right understanding of what is involved to be successful in business, and that's a work ethic. I don't want to work. I want to work for myself so I can control my own destiny. I hear that shit every single week. Everybody want to be a boss until it's time to actually do the work. If you watched the live stream last night, if you got to like maybe the 30-minute or 35-minute mark, some shit like that, Daniel came in and we were having a conversation. And there's a lot of people in here right now that they don't. The title is very triggering, and I did that purposely because I don't care about likes and dislikes. It's all engagement to me. So I do things purposely so people can come in. As long as you react, it benefits me. I don't care if you hit the thumbs up or the thumbs down. It's going to just send it out into the algorithm, and more people are going to watch. So I really don't give a fuck. But it just proves the fact that whenever you say something about work and how much of a fool you are, it upsets people. They get triggered off the shit people say. These are the failures. These are the exact people that I'm talking about. The failures. Running a business is not easier than working a job. If you want to quit working, A job because you want to control your destiny, thinking you're gonna come into business and it's gonna be a lot easier. You're a fool. I'm gonna be the guy to tell you. I'm not gonna be like the other guys that's gonna sugarcoat shit because you're not gonna do nothing. I understand the landscape of how YouTube works. It's just a bunch of internet people that do this from their basement somewhere, and they just doing this. And a lot of people that do content, they be scared of those guys that type and shit. I'm not scared of you. If you are a failure at punching the clock, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna be a failure at business. You can't even take direction, right? So how can you give it? If you can't successfully punch a clock, what makes you think you're gonna be a successful entrepreneur? You can't even punch the clock right. If you can't show up on time, if you can't listen, if you can't follow directions, how do you think you're gonna survive at running a business where everything is your responsibility? You go to a job, whatever job you work for, whatever they hire you for, they give you a scope of work. Whatever it is. Let's make it easy because we know some people out there can't comprehend very, very well. Let's say you work at McDonald's, right? And your job is to flip the fries. And you come into work and all day, only thing you do is put the fries in the basket, drop the basket, take the basket out of the grease, and salt the fries. This is what you do. Let's say you work at a McDonald's where it's just a poppin' McDonald's and they just dedicate you to the fries. There's people that fail doing that. There's people that fail at simple instructions. What makes you think that person can run a business? What makes you think that person can run a business? A job, it gives you structure, it gives you direction, it gives you a clear list of what you need to do. Business gives you chaos with zero instructions and nobody to turn to. That guy that is flipping the fries at McDonald's, if he reaches to the shelf to grab a bag of fries to dump and there's no bag there, he's going to let his supervisor know. And then it becomes their problem because someone is going to have to be held accountable that's supposed to place the orders to make sure that the fries, they have enough fries, right, for the day or the week or whatever. They drop the ball. Somebody's going to be held responsible. It's not going to be the fry guy. He doesn't have to worry about that. If the oven or whatever they cook the fryer blows out, it's not his responsibility. If the lights go out in the McDonald's, not his responsibility. If someone slips and falls in the dining area, not his responsibility. If somebody slips and falls behind the counter because it be slippery, I be seeing them slide around back there because of the grease popping and they try to sue, not his responsibility. If the place gets stuck up and robbed and they take everything out the cash register, not his responsibility. When you have a job, every single thing that happens in that job or that business is your responsibility. The truth is, most people aren't running away from the job because they want this freedom. Uh, they're running away from the grind and the work. If you can't take delegation, you show up at work to flip the fries and you got a full shift 9 to 5, and you can't take delegation well. If you can't commit yourself to a scope of work, one scope of work throughout the course of a day, what makes you think as a business owner you can deal with uncertainty successfully? Now, what I just said is going to go over a lot of people's heads, either because they're not a business owner, they have no aspirations of being a business owner. If you are a business owner and that went over your head, then you're probably somebody that's struggling or on the brink of failure. If you can't commit to a scope of work for a company, whatever it is, you're the fry guy, you're on the counter, it's your job to mop, deliver the dining area. If you can't do that successfully all day, what makes you think you can be successful with uncertainty and chaos? Hey Mark, I just hit a viaduct, tore the whole roof off the truck. What you want me to do? Hey Mark, I just got into an accident. Hey Mark, I left the tools at the last job. Hey Mark, Aaron just threw his back out going up a flight of stairs with a radiator. Hey Mark, this person just fell off the back of the truck. Hey Mark, this is Select Express calling. You had a crew that did a delivery last week and they nicked the wall. And this is all in one day. So as a business owner, now it becomes your responsibility to problem solve all these issues. How are you going to do it? A job ain't nothing but training. The people who are successful in business, a lot of people that are successful in business once worked jobs. The thing is they were successful at their jobs. I haven't met one person I can think of off the top of my head that left a job that was a failure at that job and became successful in business. If you're the type of person where you're constantly applying for work and you know the type of people I'm talking about, they can't hold a job. They can't keep a job long at all. This is the type of person I'm talking about. You can hate your job all you want. A lot of our parents, and I'm speaking to the older generation, probably didn't like getting up, going to work every day. And to be honest with you, as a business owner, I don't think why people think the moving industry is enjoyable. Those first 3 years when I was building, I say it all the time, the only thing that kept me going and continuing to strive to continue to build was the money. There's nothing enjoyable about lifting heavy shit on a 91-degree summer day in an old city like Chicago, where a lot of the buildings were built after the Great Chicago Fire over about a century ago now, right? When the city was rebuilding, late 19 teens, early 1920s, and trying to maneuver new furniture, right? Which we're living in a society now, bigger is better, in a 2-flat or 3-flat walk up, where back then 100 years ago, I don't even think a full sofa even existed. I think the biggest they made was a love seat, if I'm not mistaken. Carrying appliances up to a 4-story walk up. Carrying, patio sets, into a new construction where a person lives in a 4-story home in Lincoln Park, and then they got a sky deck patio, and they've ordered all this expensive patio shit that's made of concrete and shit from Restoration Hardware or whatever. And there's no elevator. You going up 5 flights. It's not enjoyable. It's not fun. Right? We do it because it pays. We live in a society today where people say, oh, find something you enjoy doing and then become successful at it. That works for some, it doesn't work for many. So I can even say, being in a business owner, there's nothing fun about lifting heavy shit. Even when I got to the point where I was at scale and I could remove myself from being in the field, right, to run the business, the stress became more. The mental stress is worse than the physical stress. If I could trade physical stress, right, shit that's taxing on the body, the actual lifting, in comparison to the physical stress, the mental stress, I take physical all day. Just because you grow, now you're dealing with uh, the issues of being successful, because now you have more people that are dependent on you to problem solve the issues that they're having in the field for your business. The bigger you scale, the more problems you have. If you can't flip the fries successfully, what makes you think you can run a business? You can't even commit to something as simple as flipping fries and become a master at it. It's a problem. The problem is a lot of people won't tell you it. They won't break it down the way I'm breaking it down. But when you tell people, yo, you're not gonna make it, like I can look at a person, and I know Daniel's watching, and when you tell these young guys this shit, it's considered hate, right? People that are successful in business know what it takes. So we can listen to a person talk and be like, yo, you ain't got what it takes. Because the shit you saying, it ain't going, no. 8-hour days. You complain, if when people complain about 8-hour days now, and I just want to control my destiny, I'm gonna start a business. What makes you think you're gonna be working less? If you want the business to be successful, you're gonna be working more than double. Why? Because you have to meet the needs of the business. The business is a baby. You got to nurture it so it can grow. And what does that take? Prioritizing it, putting time into it, and sacrificing everything else. I get flack for telling people that, because there's a lot of ignorant people that come into over here to this trucking, and they think because they saw some guy on social media say, hey, create your own path, leave the rat race. And I hate when people say this leave the rat race shit, because a lot of our parents work really, really hard, and it's almost like a slap in the face. So like when people say working a job is like slave, that shit is like a slap in the face, bro. Because these are the same people that parents went to work every single day to make sure that they had food on the table. So it's like spitting in your own parents' faces, bro. That shit is disturbing, bro. These will be the same people whose parents are still working. this culture, it's social media because social media drives the culture. The problem is a lot of people can't decipher fact from fiction, and people can't use better judgment to make the right decisions for their life. They just follow these false perceptions and these narratives that they see on the internet, and they think it's attainable, and it is for a very minute percentage of people. And it's very, very misleading. And let's keep it a buck. In order to be a good business person, you have to be a good leader. If you are a failure at being a follower, you won't make it in business. Leadership, one, it starts with discipline and also humility. This is why I will never belittle a person because they work. Because it'd be that's like belittling or demeaning my parent. My mother's retired. My mother's been retired over a decade, but I can't forget how hard she worked just so we could have a decent quality of life. Daniel said something last night, and I applaud him for at least being honest, because that shows that he's holding himself accountable. Discipline. When he said, "Mark, you're smarter than me. You went to school, you finished, you started a business, you sacrificed, you did this, that, and the third, all discipline." There were plenty of things thrown at me throughout my journey that could have easily taken me off course. Distractions. The discipline is what keeps you on course. I worked two two jobs throughout college. I worked in retail full time, right? So I went to school full time, and I worked a retail job here in Chicago, downtown Chicago, full time. So I went to school, took two classes a day. My second class was usually in around noon, 12:31, and then I worked retail in the stock room from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. So sometimes I would walk. So sometimes I catch the train. I had like an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes to get from school to work, and then I would work there from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. When I got off at 11 p.m., I would go home, get in my car, get my messenger bag, and I would come back downtown to work a second job doing promotions. Back in the day, we had what was called street teams. So I was on a street team, and I got paid to pass out flyers and hang poles on street poles, and we would get shipped like cassette tapes. It's like we called them snippets back in the day, and CDs were just coming in, and I would get vinyl, and I would have to service the DJs, vinyl for like, stuff that was coming out, for them to break records and shit like that. And then I would do that overnight because I would have to wait for the clubs to let out. So I would be out to about 3, 4 in the morning. I get home at 5. I get 2, 3 hours of sleep, and I have to be back up for school in the morning. And I'm a full time student. This is why I don't allow excuses. It's not when I'm up here, I'm not just not allowing excuses because I'm older and I'm going to give you the traditional you got to work. No, I'm going to tell you what I did. So I'm telling you what I did from experience. So if I could do it, you can do it. I know what it takes. If I'm young, I'm 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Like, you got all the energy in the world. Like, why ain't you working? I was talking to Daniel last night, and I mentioned the YouTube thing. And I'm just using this for examples because I'm trying to show you the mindset of this generation. I said, well, what happened to the YouTube thing? Oh, man, it's too hard, man. How the hell is YouTube too hard? You just turn the camera on and you talk. He gave up on that. Nothing is going to blossom if you don't commit to it. If you give up too easy, you'll never see the success from it. So in his situation, and I didn't say it last night, I'm just using him as an example because he's a content creator. What makes you think you can build this business in the middle of wherever and be successful when the things that you're currently trying, you give up far too easy? Even the things that you tried that you're starting yourself, where you're not working for someone, you give up on those things too easy. But when you tell these kids this shit, they perceive it as hate. I thought hate was when you was envious of somebody. That's what my generation like. Oh man, he got on them Jordans, man. Fuck dude, man. Fuck that nigga, man. Fuck them Jordans, man. Them shit, that colorway, that shit whack anyway. To me, that was hating my generation. How can you hate on somebody that ain't got nothing, or trying to get something, or trying to be where you? How can you hate on someone? Why is it in today's society when you talk to young people? Oh man, you're hating ass. Back in the day when the OGs talk, we listen. Back in the day, we were happy when the OGs gave us some game. We looked forward to it. We was all ears, zip lip. Why? Because they could give us the information that can help us succeed, and they can also provide us the information that we need to keep us out of trouble. Why? Because they have the wisdom. Today, being an OG, we got these titles now: YN, OG, Unk. You know what I'm saying? Big bro. You know what I'm saying? So I'm in the age category. And then old head. So I'm right under old head. I'm an OG. I'm an OG. So I got about another 10 years, I think, for old head. All right. Was old head 55? Is it 55 start the old head? So I'm an OG. We just some old hating ass niggas. I don't understand it, bro. That shit don't make sense to me, bro. Last night, there was a parallel drawn. Working a job is like slavery. Working a job is like slavery. Appreciate that super chat. Appreciate that super chat. Appreciate that. Let me read that real quick. Hold on. Give me a second. Let me get my shit together over here. Where's my damn buttons at?
Sweet.
For supporting your channel and all the information you give. Shout out to Phone, man. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications. Last night there was a parallel. Daniel gave working a job is like being a slave, or like being in that movie, that Netflix movie, the Squid Game, where you're controlled and waiting for your number to get called. Let's flip that. You build a business, right? You become a slave for the business. You just switching the plantation. Now you becoming a slave by choice. So I'll take that analogy that Daniel gave and I'll run with it. Why? Because this is something that I have already been saying on my channel anyway. I said when I started my business, I became a slave for the business. Why? Because the business dictated my every move. There's been plenty dates that I canceled. I thought it was gonna be a smooth day. All right, babe, going. Yeah, we're gonna go to Roof Chris. Yes. Stuffed chicken breast tonight. Stuffed chicken breast, creamy spinach, drinks, the works. And guess what? The day didn't go the way I thought it was gonna go. So I had to make that disappointing call. No, Big Mark ain't gonna turn the money down to go eat stuffed chicken breasts. I'm just gonna have an angry black woman that wanted to eat stuffed chicken breasts, and I'm gonna have to tell her she may have to wait till tomorrow. I'm gonna go get that money. Why? Because the business is dictating it. The business is telling me, what you gonna do, pimp? Money is calling. Or you could be in a situation where you just stuck. Or if you're at scale, you got a situation that arise throughout the day that you have to correct. You just can't leave the problem for tomorrow. It could be something very, very serious. Starting a business, you become a slave to the business. Why? Because you have to meet the needs of the business. This is where a lot of young people get it messed up. The business don't meet the needs of you. The business says you need to be here to get these trucks off. The business says, you know what, 2 or 3 of these trucks, their day is going a little bit longer than normal. You have to stay until the last truck comes in. The business says, hey, you got 2 drivers that called off, and you're calling people, and you only were able to get one guy to come in that was off today. Didn't nobody else answer the phone. What's the business telling you? You going to down that other truck because the driver didn't show up, or you going to make the sacrifice and you going to get on the truck and go get that money? You thought you was just going to have a good day in the office, but guess what? The business is dictating something else. So let's take the Daniel analogy. You want to get off don't want to be a slave. All right. The only thing, if you have the mindset of a real business owner, the only thing you're going to do is move from one plantation to the next. But check this out, pimp. The plantation that you build and you create for yourself, that slave master is far more worse than the one when you work for somebody else. It's worse. The business that you create is going to own you. It's going to own your time. It's going to own your energy. It's going to own your sleep. It's going to own your mental health. And if you're not careful, it'll own your whole life. I dedicated my life to it. If I'm actively involved in a business that I built, then after God, that's what comes next. And a lot of people, when I first said that on the channel, and the people that have been watching for years, you remember, oh, I got hit with a lot of flack. And a lot of those people had to come back and apologize to me. Because they were sold this dream that they could balance shit. Bro, listen, if you if you if you start a business, yeah, that work-life balance shit, this a wrap for that shit, pimp. If you thought you were gonna come into business so you could spend more time with your family, that's far from the truth, especially at the beginning. I don't understand why this shit is so hard to understand and realize that people really get upset with me when I tell them this shit. And then you get mad at me when I say, well, man, Mark, you came and you did what you did, man. You made your money, you got out the game. You sitting at home, you ain't out here. I thought that's what you want to do. I thought that was the whole point. I thought the point was to go run up a bag so that this freedom thing that everybody want, you can get it. The problem is when you're actively in the game, you don't want to prioritize the work. You don't want to sacrifice. Why do you think that you're going to have all this leisure time when you start this business? The person that has all this leisure time, that means they're not prioritizing the business, and that's why the business is suffering. And that's why you still trying to figure it out. I'm just telling you what it is. I mean, I don't give a care if you get mad or not. You ain't gonna do nothing about it. So ain't no sense of being angry. You dig what I'm saying? You're never off when you have a business. Never. You ain't successful with punch. You're not successful 9 to 5. You're not successful within a window of 9 to 5. You can't do that correctly. You don't have enough discipline to do that correctly. So what makes you think you can do something 24 hours? No, Mark, once your job is done from the day the business is closed, then that's it. You a goddamn lie. This is how I know you ain't a business owner, and you damn sure ain't no successful business owner. Because when you a business owner, the work follows you 24 hours a day, pimp. You never have a break. Just because you at dinner with your wife, or just because you at dinner with your chick, you're thinking business. You're thinking about the problems at the business that you need to solve, the problems that happen earlier in the day that need to be corrected first thing in the morning. You're constantly thinking about growth opportunities and how to make more money. You're constantly thinking about the unforeseen situations and the uncertainty of the future. Every business owner thinks about this shit. The smart ones, the successful ones. Why? Because we know it's only a matter of time. This is why we're always thinking about ways to make more money. When do you have this time? I'm literally sitting across the table. I've talked about it. I'm in Jamaica. Phone ringing off the hook. Mark, we on vacation. You know why we on vacation? Because of the phone ringing. I'm not going to neglect the business that's helping to cover this vacation. The reason why we're here is because of this business. There's no way I can escape it. Yes, there's people in place. My brother is there. Genesis is there. There's people in the office. But guess what? I can't control what may arise when I'm away. I hope everything goes well, but guess what? Today everything ain't going peachy. I don't give a goddamn where we at. If that phone ringing and it's a business call and it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, I don't give a goddamn what we doing. This is business. I'll say that story for another day. It's business. You don't get a break. It takes a strong person who has a strong mental fortitude and just strong mentally to be able to handle a lot of these situations. So that's why when some of these guys call up, or when I talk to Daniel or talk to some of these guys, or we look at some of these content creators that, just can't get things right, it's easy for me to say, yo, you're not going to make it in business. It's not hate. I just know what it takes to make in business. And then let's look at it from the competitive spectrum. If you haven't been successful in a work environment, it's definitely not going to translate successfully to business. But then once you get in business, there's a competitive side too. There's going to be a guy that's active currently that has my mindset, that's going to be gunning for the same opportunities that you're gunning for to bring revenue in. If you don't have a strong business mind, discipline, willing to sacrifice, that person is going to beat you every single day of the week. That's where a lot of young people they seem to not understand that too. When you get into business, it just doesn't mean, okay, I got a truck, I'm in business, I'm going to make money. No, bro. There's a competitive landscape out there too. That whole shit of is enough money for everybody, not necessarily. I don't agree with that. Because there's guys that are out there like me that want it all. They have the resources to outbid you. They have the operation cost that's lower than you because they're more tenured and more seasoned than you. Just because you knew don't mean shit to them. We're going to leave opportunities on the table for you to eat? No, we have the resources to take all the opportunity. Why should we leave some for you? We preparing for the unexpected too. If it's me or you and the opportunities there, it's going to be me, pimp. I don't care about your lack of knowledge or you're a new entrant. It's an opportunity right there. I need it. Yeah, go ahead and leave it on the table. I'm gonna go get it. You the person who are gonna not sacrifice whatever it is you had pre-planned when this opportunity pops up. Me, I'm gonna cancel whatever I had planned and I'm gonna take advantage of the opportunity. The landscape of business now, especially in these fields where a lot of young entrants are coming into the game, I don't understand how people are feeling. It's so easy to beat these guys because they lack the discipline. It's obvious. You see it in their content. They talk about it. Let's talk to Daniel. Trying to break through to guys like Daniel and change their mindset is challenging. It's draining. But we have uh to keep at it. Control. What was another thing we talked about last night? Was it control? You're being controlled. Same shit with a business. Listen, work is work. I don't care if 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 you're doing the work for my company or if you're doing the work for your company, it's work. It's work. It's just what it is. There's no way to escape it if 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 you want to be successful in life. If you want to attain things in life, there's just no way to escape it. It's just not. This shit ain't gonna fall out the sky. The system is not rigged. I don't believe in that shit, bro. And if it is rigged, then there's ways around it. Maybe it is rigged, but there's ways around it. I figured out a way to make money. Opportunities are there. This is not like the 1950s. It's just because you refuse to work. I think when people say the system is rigged and all this fucking dumbass shit, bro, it's just excuses for not wanting to get off your behind and do what you want to do. Daniel and these guys, they could never have done what I've done. Never. If you can't listen, for moving, there's plenty of customers that always just underestimate shit. You'll think you're sending a truck to go do a move. It could be a 3-bedroom house, and um, you might, based on what they tell you, right? You might estimate it at maybe a 10-hour, an 8 to 12 hour job. And then the job ends up taking 16, 17, 18 hours because they just completely underestimated the amount of shit that they had. They didn't list shit. They forgot about, the shit in the garage. They forgot about the shit in the storage unit in the basement. They forgot about the shit in the attic. They didn't want to really tell you that they were a hoarder. And guess what? You tell your crew or you take on that job based off what the customer told you, and then you get there and it's something totally different. You know how many days I've had like that? Both with me being on the truck in the early days and crews of mine complaining, Mark, you said this was a typical 3-bedroom. You said it should take 10 hours, 8 to 10 hours. Man, this shit we gonna be here all day and half the night. Guess what? To me, it sucks, but guess what? Start and finish it. We're gonna work our way through it because I'm looking at the end result, and it's that money, that revenue. This is what it takes from a business perspective. So if you don't have the discipline to complete something from a work perspective, working a job, and then you get into a situation like this where you're looking at a 16, 17-hour day of just labor, continuous labor, carrying shit to a truck, carrying shit from a truck, wrapping shit, padding shit, lifting shit, maneuvering shit. You getting your steps in, but it's the discipline there. If you're not good at discipline, how can you successfully build a business where you have to, the people that are going to be working for you How are you going to be able to translate to them, or how are you going to be able to coach them? How are you going to be able to manipulate them into being disciplined to do the work? Because when they get to calling you and complaining and shit, what are you going to say to these people? You're not going to know what to say. You're not going to be able to use, if you haven't done it, right? And they haven't seen you do it, they haven't seen you exercise a level of discipline. How would you know how to manipulate these guys into doing something where you know they're going to be frustrated and you know they're going to be complaining? You just won't know how to do it, bro. It's hard for me to even explain, bro, because you'll think this shit is so cut and dry, but it's not to these young guys, bro. It's easy to get people that work for you to do a lot of this shit because they've seen you do it. They know you do it. They either started with you in the early years of the business, or even if you're removed from the actual field duties, they'll see you get out in the field from time to time and times of need and do the work. A lot of these guys, they just can't complete a simple task. In order to be a good leader, you had at one point been a good follower. I learned a lot of my business acumen not in the classroom, right? I learned it from working for other people. When I worked in retail, I started in the stock room. I eventually worked up to stock supervisor, right? When I graduated from college, I didn't land this big job that I thought I was going to land. I ended up working at Target as a stock manager, right? My resume from my retail job, it just put me in this position at Target when Target was starting to come to Chicago 20 something years ago, when they were building in Chicago in the early 2000s. I landed a job there as a stock manager. I learned operations. It transcended years down the line when I started my own business. I learned human resources. I learned how to manipulate people into doing things that I needed them to do. All that shit we used to do in the morning, huddles and firing people up and all this motivation, all that shit is manipulation tactics. I learned that. I learned operations. I learned communication skills. Later on down the line, I took a job with an advertising firm where I got to travel into different markets. I learned about way stations because sometimes I would have to take uh, a commercial vehicle with a bunch of segways. This is back when segways were really popular. We would wrap the segways and we would do campaigns for uh, like wireless companies and shit like that. And I would go into a market, put ads on like Craigslist or whatever back in the day, and hire day models depending on how long the campaign was. And they would FedEx me the uniforms for the models for the day, and I would have the segways, and I would have them riding on segways promoting Boost Mobile. This is back when Boost Mobile was just starting in like 06, 07. Cricket Wireless. I remember I had to go here back home and do a campaign for Lollapalooza for a beer company. So I learned a lot about traveling with a truck, right? Way stations and just shit like that eventually transcended me starting a trucking company and a moving company. I worked for a small business owner, very small business owner in a local retail store here in Chicago. There I learned and all this is God setting me up for what he had for me later on down the line. Now I'm working with someone on a smaller level, right? I've done the corporate shit, right? So I understood the corporate landscape, right? I sucked that game up. Not and it's I didn't know that I was going to be doing the trucking thing later, but I'm a sponge, right? So then when I got to working for this guy Jamal here in Chicago in a small retail store in the hood, now I'm learning now what it takes to run a business as a small business owner. A lot of the frustration I saw working for him, I didn't see in corporate, working for Target and these other corporate companies. Why? Because all my superiors that were within the store that were higher than me, they're all employees. Just because they have a title, they're not directly associated with the full scope of the business as far as running it from the corporate landscape. They're just the responsibilities within the store. Whatever happens in the store, if the roof caved in, they're going to relay that to corporate. I saw the stress from a small business owner perspective. I saw how, from a small business owner perspective, employees treat you different. We know employees in large corporations, for the most part, they may not like their superiors. It's way different when you're a small business owner because they have more of a personal connection. They may not be in your personal, I'm not saying you guys hang out, but when things are good, they see it, they feel it. When things are bad, they see it and they feel it because the head honcho is right there working alongside them. I see the resentment. You don't see that from a corporate structure with employees because they know that the managers are just managers. They're on the payroll too. I saw what it was like dealing with people in my community that come from my community, that crab in the barrel mentality shit. And this is all God setting me up for what he had that I didn't even know. I had no inclination. I didn't even know I was going to do this. It's not something that I was working towards. I saw how the community treated him. Coming into work and it's a whole cut in the brick of the fucking building right next to where the safe was in the back room. And they spent all night cutting the brick to take the safe out. Then to 3 months later, coming in, the ceiling is coming down because now they done scaled the building and cut through the roof. So now you got the community and you got people that's working in the business that's inside. Man, this is where the safe at. For a person to cut through the brick right next to the safe, that's an inside job. God knew I was going to eventually be working with people directly, right? That I was going to build this company within my community. And he was putting me in position to see this shit and to see how somebody else maneuvered this shit because I would be in that same position a few years later. Now, here's the kicker. I was at these jobs for years. I wasn't in and out like how you see these guys. The job that I worked through in college, I worked all through college. I graduated high school June, right, of 98. That retail job, I started it in August of 98. And I worked there for 5 years until graduation. It took me 5 years to get my college degree. I worked there to April of 2023. Why? Because I worked there. I was disciplined. Yes, there was some days where it was tough. There was some times because I was juggling 2 jobs and being a full-time student there, I was late and got corrective action and I was frustrated and I got written up. I still went to work 5 years. when I graduated college and I started as a stock manager at Target, I was there for 3 years before I took the advertising job. I was at the advertising job 2 years. I was at the local retail and cell phone store here in Chicago 2 years. I went to work, and guess what? I hated Target, but I didn't leave it until something else came about. They hated me. I didn't like them. I was in a community. They put me in a community when they were building that I just didn't resonate with. They put me way over on Pulaski somewhere in a brand new Target in a Hispanic neighborhood. And it was just me and one other black manager there at that time. Everybody else was Hispanic. I wanted to be at the one on 87th and Cottage Grove, but I'm glad that didn't happen. That would have been rough. But all these situations were preparing me for what was down the line. Now, if I wouldn't have stuck those jobs through, I wouldn't have learned what I learned that transcended later into when I started my own business. I was able to take a lot of those real world experiences and being in those situations, being in those businesses, whether I was or wasn't a manager, and applying that when I became a business owner. And I attribute those experiences to my success because I believe outside of my work ethic, outside of my business acumen, I believe what I experienced from working jobs, being successful and disciplined at working jobs, because when I started in retail, I started as a stock guy. I had to work my way up to management level. That shows discipline, that shows success, right? You work your way up to a promotion. You work to a promotion. These guys, they can't even stay long enough and become good at something to even get promoted. You can't even get promoted off the fries. You can't even get it off promoted off the fries to flipping the goddamn burgers. What makes you think you're going to be successful in business? Now, and I guarantee you there's somebody watching this right now that is just having a hard time understanding what I'm saying. They saying this old nigga is hating. It makes perfect sense to me. And if you don't get it and you try to do it, it's going to be a guy like me that you're competing against in business that does get it. And that person is going to contribute also to your failure. Because just because you're in business does not mean that you're going to be successful. There are many variables on if you're going to be successful or not. There's a process. You have to respect it. You have to be able to handle criticism. You have to be able to finish what you start. And we see in this young generation, they can't finish what they start. You have to be dedicated to something. So the skills that are required in order to be successful in business, you have to get them somewhere. You can sit up there and you can buy as many courses you want. You can listen to as many gurus as you want online. You can buy the ebooks and all that shit. But at the end of the day, we've seen so many people buy these products over the course of the last 4 or 5 years since a lot of products got popular during the pandemic and after, and it hasn't equated to a multitude of success, just more failure. Because what happens when they buy these products, then they want to come back online and they want to say they were scammed and shit like that. You can buy as many products as you want. If products would have existed back in my day, and let's say I got the best of the best products and I read them and I took the courses, none of them would have gave me the skills that I needed to be successful like the real world experiences that I had for working for other people and other companies. And I mean that shit wholeheartedly. The only thing I remember from college was use other people's money. And I totally disagree with that shit. There's so many people that talk this credit shit, like Daniel was talking, I'm gonna teach my kids the credit game, that run that shit and then come into business with this ignorant mindset, and now they out of business and they owe a bunch of creditors. When I tell people to work really hard, put money to the side, and come in, especially in this trucking thing, cash, I get met with flack and criticism for giving you a better way where you're not going to put yourself into so much debt, because you're rolling the dice. At least if you save up the money and you come in with cash and you fail, you don't owe anybody. And you still have the truck, the asset that you can sell and recoup some of your losses. But you got Daniel say, I'm going to teach my kids the credit game and this, that, and third. Okay, you teach them this, that, and the third, and they come in and do the dun-to-dun like we see a lot of these young guys out here doing now. They fail in business because in this business, 90% of people coming in is 85 to 95% of people that come into this business fail right off the rip. And guess what? The difference between the person who came in, that exercised some self-control, that saved up the money and failed, that blow ain't going to hit them that hard. That person that played that credit game, they're going to go out still owing people. But that's a different topic for another day. But the real world skills from working a job is, how I feel like I was able to navigate very, very smooth when I started my business. I really don't remember a lot of the teachings from college because I started, my freshman year was 98 in college. I remember taking a class on international business. To me, that shit doesn't relate to anything today. That the things that I took away from college that still hold precedence today, that contributed to my success, were like the economic classes. I remember taking micro and macro. Those were very instrumental, but like that, those business classes, none of that shit. I don't, none of that shit. It was me working those jobs that helped me navigate. Having to be at a place at a specific time, that helped with the discipline. There's a lot of people now, and I know I'm kind of preaching, and I try not to preach, but I just think this message, it just needs to be heard. For instance, it was a lady that used to do my locks, and shout out to her. She's a good person. Nothing against her, but I'm gonna use her as an example. When I first started going, so I went to her for 11 years. She got her own business, her own shop. Later on down the line, she got out of the shop. She started doing her locks from home. She set her crib up, part of her crib, like a shop. So it was real professional. Still at the house, but it was professional. Don Solo knows who I'm talking about because I met Don Solo. She did his locks too. And we met in 2018, way before I even started a YouTube channel. So, and then he happened to see me again on YouTube years later. But anyway, I would have an appointment for 9 o'clock. You're a business owner. You're doing hair from the crib, and you're late. You're in the house. How are you late? And I'm the first appointment of the day. And this wasn't something that would happen every now and again. This would happen every 2-3 weeks of when I get my shit done. Why? Because you waking up late. So my 9 o'clock appointment, it don't really matter. Well, when he get here, he'll wake me up, and then I'll get my shit together. And then I would have to sit in the car. I don't want to sit in the car in the middle of Inglewood. I'm not from over here. I'm from over there. I'm from over east. This ain't my neck of the woods. So one, I would have to explain to her, yo, I ain't from over here. If I get out and I go knock on the door, they see me now. If Lil Fo and them on the block, they see me. So now they ain't see me went knock on the door. Then they see me go sit back in the car, and then the car ain't pulled off. If you ain't from Chicago, you wouldn't understand what I'm talking about right now. I'm not from over here. I can't be sitting in the car. On that car. I'm trying to explain this shit to her. She don't get it. Ain't nobody going, what the fuck you mean? How is it I got an appointment every 2-3 Wednesdays at 9 a.m. and you live here and you late? She'd text me at 9:30, 9:35. All right, come to the door. I'm ready. This is the shit I'm talking about. Having a job prior to going into business is going to teach you that discipline, because if you don't show up to work, if they tell you to be at work at 9 a.m., all right, don't be there. You got a 7-minute grace period, right? Usually the grace period is 7 minutes. And on the 7th minute is when you become late. When that punch clock turned 9:07, you late. They're going to give you a verbal. They're going to call you into the office. Human resources are going to call you into the office. They're going to give you a verbal. If it happens again, it turns into a written. Now you're on probation. 60 days, 90 days, depending on what the business. If it happens again, now it's final. So this corrective action is exactly what it sounds like. Corrective action. They're trying to correct the bad behavior. This is the discipline. It's disciplinary action. If you've never been through that, how can you expect to have that same level of discipline when you start? Just because you start your own business, I can show you so many examples of business owners who've never really worked a job, that start a business, and their business suffers because of a lack of discipline, because they never got that discipline, because they could never hold a job. Finishing what you start. Being a part of a system. How can you proactively teach an employee to be a team player when you sucked and you failed at it for so many tries? You can't. It's a manipulation thing. You don't know the game because you never played it successfully to know how to do it to others. If you can't win at a job, you're going to fail at business. I swear to God, I mean that shit. I don't care what you think. I don't care. I don't give a fuck how you feel, because I haven't seen, me personally, I haven't seen one person do it. I haven't seen a person who could not handle and hold down a job successfully start and build a business. I'll work harder for myself than I will for somebody else. No, you won't. Work is work. If you go apply for a job knowing that you're going there to work and you fail at work, that means you're a bad worker. I don't give a fuck who you work for. I'm not going to let myself down. If I commit to something, even if I hate it, I'm going to make sure I finish it for the day. I hate getting on the treadmill in the morning doing uphill. At the highest level, 15. But guess what? If I say I got to do it to X amount of calories, or if I set a timer or how many minutes that I got to do it for, when it starts to burn, it obviously don't burn anymore, but the longer you go, eventually it's going to start burning. I'm not going to let myself down. We're going to fight through the pain. The moment I turn that damn incline down to 10 or something that's a little bit more comfortable, I'm going to be upset with myself because I failed myself. A lot of these young bucks, they can't do it. You're not going to just get this magic motivation or magic inspiration just because your LLC is on the goddamn company. That just, like, I don't understand why people think that, oh, it's my company, so I'm going to work harder. As long as I've been doing content for the past 3 and almost a half years, we see that that's not true. There's been plenty of people that have come up on the call-in show that said the same shit. I was in a Discord talking to a guy yesterday. He probably watching. And it was a live room. There was people in there. And this guy literally said, listen, I swear to God. Box Truck Buddha in here now. He was in there. This man, and he probably watching. Listen, Big Mark, we gonna keep it a buck. The man took a load, cargo van load, from Antioch, Illinois to South Carolina. It was a Friday. See, he wasn't prepared. He didn't plan. He just saw a load as he was going back home up to Minnesota, and it was paying well. So he just booked it, took it, and ran it. Because he's a novice, he doesn't understand. It's going to be hard to get a load coming out. It's the weekend. So when he got the load and he wasn't prepped and prepared and had a load trying to work his way back, they didn't have anything for him. The only thing that popped up was a load for 75 cents a mile. He's in a cargo van now. He didn't take it. He drove from South Carolina back to Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota. South Carolina, way back to Minneapolis, empty. I said, why would you do that? He said, man, I ain't finna be working for peanuts. I'd rather go back empty. What sense does that make? And how is it peanuts? You're in a cargo van. 75 cents a mile? You're in a cargo van. How is it peanuts? You lost more money going empty. The 75 cents, even if you would have took a loss. Let's say if you would have been a box truck. It would have alleviated some of the loss. So what sense does it make? Listen to what this man said. Man, I'm not finna be a slave out here working for peanuts. He said the same shit Daniel said. This is a person that's actively in the business. He ran from South Carolina back to Minneapolis empty and left the 75 cent a load because he felt it was an insult. It was an insult. You insulted yourself. There's no way I'm running empty and I got 75 cents, whether I'm profiting or not. It's that 75 cents and I can't get nothing else. It's going to help alleviate some of that pain. It's going to cut my losses down. But I could not believe this shit. And I'm not making this up because I think Paul was in there because he already named it. Buddha was in there. Pippi was in there. think Jonathan was in there. 608 was in there. And then want to argue with me and try to like try to come up with like some reasoning. But hold on, that ain't even the kicker. He said, man, I would have had to wait till Monday. It was I would have had to wait a day. Then it was I would have had to wait till Monday. And I'm like, well, why you in the van? You sleep in your van? No, man, I ain't gonna sleep in the van. I'll sleep in the hotel. Then it went from sleeping in the hotel. I'm like, bro, whatever. Then he said, look, man, look. I swear to God, listen, I'm not lying to you. There's people in here that was in there. He said, man, look, I had to get back because I wanted some pussy. Excuse my language, but I had to tell you what he said. He said, Mark, I needed some pussy. So fuck all that shit. I'm not finna be running, and it's an insult. I'd rather run for nothing. So I ran back empty, and I had to hurry up and get back there so I could get me some pussy. I swear to God, that's what he said. Pippi was in there. I ain't lying. I ain't lying to you. So I tried to lecture him on cost. And this is why if you was in here at the beginning of the stream, and this is why I say I'm not gonna focus on that shit no more. It's a waste of time, bro. To try to educate people, especially like us. I'm gonna say it, us. On business, bro. I feel like this shit is just a time waster, bro. Like, why do I have to argue with an individual who's in the business, who's new in the business, on why that was just not a good idea? You're telling me you rather run empty than it takes 70, and you're in a cargo van. You're almost at $1 a mile. I'm pretty sure without doing his CPM, he's more than likely there's a profit margin there, or probably a break even. But there's probably a profit margin, most likely. On average, from there, he's probably would have been profiting. If things are on the up and up, I'm just taking an estimate on an average. He probably would have been profiting about maybe 25 cents a mile. But let's say for shits and giggles, he didn't. Even at that 75 cent, it's alleviating his losses some. He didn't understand how. How is taking 75 cents saving me money? Because you went back empty. So the cost that was associated with you getting from South Carolina back to Minnesota, it came out of your pocket. The 75 cent load was being dropped off in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It'd be different if he was talking to like a retard or something. You talking to me. You got to go past Milwaukee to get to Minnesota. Well, I could just take 90. Yeah, but you can also take 94. 94 is going to run you straight up through Milwaukee. I mean, through Milwaukee. You could have dropped the load and took 94 all the way up and around to Minnesota. But you rather travel the distance empty because you felt like you were insulted at 75. You feel like you're worth more and you wanted to get some pussy. You don't want to work. You know what the work that was associated with it? The 2 days downtime until Monday. But whose fault was that? That was his fault for not planning properly. Something jumped up, like what most people do, and this goes back to what I talk about on the channel. They don't understand cost. They see a number for a load, they jump at it because it looks like a good number, and that's what he did. He jumped at that number of that job coming from Antioch to South Carolina, and he didn't realize that by the time he got there, it was going to be a weekend and it was going to be hard for him to get out of there. He didn't think about that. The work that's associated with it now that he didn't want to do was the 2-day waiting period to get that 75-cent load Monday. That's part of the job, bro. That's the hit that you're going to have to take for improper planning. That's the lack of discipline because you're frustrated because of the decision that you made. So everything that I'm saying, here's a great example of it. And then want to argue me and have no valid points. There's no argument that you're going to win in that scenario, bro. It's just foolish. But this is the landscape of the type of individuals that we're dealing with. You can have the capital to come into business. How long will you survive? Didn't want to hold yourself accountable. Just wanted to make excuses. You'll never be more accountable to yourself than to someone else unless you already have the discipline. I can fuck up and hold myself accountable because I know what I did was wrong. If I do something wrong, I'll hold myself accountable because I have the discipline. Mark, you know better. A person who doesn't have that discipline, they're going to make excuses even when this shit don't make sense. It's a room full of people in the Discord, and I'm asking the people like, wait a minute, am I tripping? Let me know, y'all, am I tripping? No, Mark, you ain't tripping. This shit don't make no sense. All right, man, I just want to make sure because I am getting old. I might have some little signs or something that's going on. Let me know because, man, this shit ain't making sense to me, pimp. So I don't, Sosa, he was in a cargo van. That's a rate. That's the rate that they get in cargo vans. He was 75 cents in a cargo van. So he was fine with 75 cents. He just didn't want to do it. The work that was associated with it, due to his planning, he didn't want to put it in. He didn't want to wait the 2 days. He wanted to get back home to get some pussy. That's what he said. The discipline to sit those 2 days, like a lot of truckers, a lot of people that are in the logistics have to do, is just a part of the job, especially when you plan poorly. So because he lacked that discipline, it cost him financially. And that's a great example of everything that I've been talking about. The only thing that sets him apart from a lot of other people is he has deeper pockets where he just has, in comparison to a lot of other people that come into this industry right now. And that's why he has this I don't care attitude. He's not looking at it from a business. He's looking at the money that he has accrued doing other things, and he's putting it all into one pot where he should be looking like, okay, this money that I've accrued in life doing other things is over here. This business is this business. All right. What I've done over here, it can't, the losses this business takes, I can't, especially when they're just from bad decision making. From a business perspective, this money over here has nothing to do with this. This business has to be accountable for its actions. Because he said something like, well, man, and I'm like, bro, that shit don't got shit to do with it. Because if you don't correct that behavior now, You're just going to continue to throw money at the problem until there's no money left. And this money isn't even coming from the business because your business is new. You're pulling resources from something else. And it's not like you're taking a loss trying to master the learning curve, just like normal losses. This is ignorant. You know something else he said? He hasn't really worked a job. Why? Because he was in and out of jail. So without going into too much of his business, here's a person that figured out ways to make money outside. And you know, if you're not a middle American, you know where I'm going with this. Of working a traditional job. And when that person was making money, would start a business. So he doesn't really, I don't think he really understands, well, doesn't have the experience working a traditional job to have the discipline and all of the shit that I was paralleling. When you work a traditional job, a lot of the stuff that you learn working a job and how you can translate that over to when you start your own business. He doesn't have that because he comes from a certain, and if you know where I'm going, if you don't, then just follow along. He comes from doing stuff to make money, and the money that's made starts a business. This isn't his first business, but he's seen success in other businesses, and he thinks that because I've seen some success in some other businesses, this business is going to be successful. And I'm saying trucking is totally different from this other business that you're telling me, bro. You're talking about something that's more in hospitality, and this is logistics. The two don't mesh. But he's never had formal training. I think working on a job is formal training. And I'm telling you that as a 45-year-old man that has worked jobs and has been a successful entrepreneur. In that order, working to getting into entrepreneurship. I took a lot of shit from working and I applied it in my business. He's never really had a real job. So when I'm speaking a language, a business language, it's even hard for him to really even, I just don't understand why you don't understand cost. That's why I'm so tired of talking about this shit, bro. I think a lot of people need to stop romanticizing, right, about this business shit, and stop clowning, people that work jobs like you better than them. It's nothing wrong with working a job. I think if you learn how to succeed at a job first and master discipline and respect the grind of getting up, reporting to something day in, day out, I think it will contribute to success in business. Take that energy into business. Because business is a job, bro. Except you don't get a chance to clock in and clock out. You're always on the clock. Even if you're not in the office or even if you're not on the truck and physically doing whatever you're doing that pertains to the business that actually brings in the actual revenue, if you're a true business owner, your mind is always thinking about your business, whether you're problem solving, something that needs to be taken care of in the business, laying in bed at night, problem solving, laying in bed at night, thinking of ideas to make more money. Only a real true business owner is going to relate what I'm saying, and they're going to be like, yeah, he knows. If you don't understand, then you're not one of them. And this is why you're mad, and this is why you say, oh, you're a hater. and you still trying to figure shit out instead of taking the information, put it in your back pocket, and giving it a try. I don't got no reason to hate on you. I don't even know you. Anything that I want, I just go get it. And if I can't go get it, I know what it takes, or I know what I need to do to go get it. And I'm going to create a plan, and I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to sacrifice and do whatever I got to do to go get it. There's no reason to hate. Like, so young people, get that word out of your mind, because you use it out of context. Context, uh, from my understanding, from my generation, it was like a jealous and envy thing. If you don't have nothing, and the person that you saying is hating, they got more than you, how can they be hating? Especially when it comes from an education perspective and knowledge on how to be successful. You can't say you don't even know your cost per mile. You don't even know your operation cost. You don't even got the experience, the life experience or the business experience. So when these people say this shit to people who are 15, 10, 15, 20 years their senior, that shit is it's weird to me. And this is why you in the position that you in. Me, I listen to my elders, even to today. I'm gonna tell you this in parting. I can't think of one thing my mother ever told me that was wrong. It may have not sounded right at that particular time, but it was right. It wasn't the fact that it wasn't right, it just wasn't right now at that particular time. Every older person, my grandmother, God rest her soul, my mother, older people, aunts, uncles, older homies, older guys from the neighborhood, it's okay to consume information from people that are older than you and not take offense to it. And then there's another thing I want to say. Older people, especially from my generation and generation before me, I'm an X. The generation before me was boomers. Our way of talking is a little bit more direct, and y'all are really, really sensitive because we live in a sensitive society now. That's not our fault, because 20, 25, 30 years ago, the way I talk is just how everybody talked. So it was normal, right? Now you have to be careful on the words that you use, right? And the tonality can't be too aggressive, or you're going to perceive it the wrong way, and your little bitty heart is going to get all tender and moist. My generation, we don't come from that. So when we talk, the tonality is not purposely to hurt your feeling. It's just direct, because that's the generation we come from. I was watching a clip from Married with Children the other day. Al Bundy, that was a typical man in a household. Got up every day, hated his job, but did it because he had a family to support. Bad attitude, really direct. And that's how most people were back then. So listen to the message and don't let the tonality or, deter you from consuming the message, and don't take it personal. It's not done to hurt you. All right, man. I'm done running off at the mouth. Shout out to Frank Sinatra. Shout out to Sosa, Paul Smith, 608. Shout out to Box Truck Buddha. Shout out to all my haters too. Listen, haters, I hope y'all go get y'all some money, man. Man, go get you some money, man. Go get you some money, man. And I hope you soaked up the game. Even though you hating, I hope you soaked up some game. Because I want you to win. I want you to win. Somebody came in my comments this morning. Talk about, man, why you watching, buddy? Last time I checked, YouTube was the number one uh platform to consume media. It's not cable, it's not Netflix. So if YouTube is the number one source of media and it's primarily video content, and what do you do with video content? You watch it. So why, I don't understand why people say, well, why are you watching? Like, you critique when we used to watch TV back in the day, or let's look at it like this. When you watch a sports game, you watching LeBron, you watching the Lakers, and you watch them play your favorite home team, and you have friends and y'all critique the game. Y'all talk about the game. It's something that you watch and you have a right to critique it. When you watch your favorite show, BMF, Power, man, you called BMF last night, man. Yeah, man, this season trash, man. Yeah, man, Power, man, ain't nothing like them first few seasons when Ghost was alive. YouTube is the same thing. So I don't understand when people watch this Dante kid, why people get upset. The enablers that the video is put up to watch it, and when you watch content, you're going to critique it. You made social media popular. Social media. So when people consume content, they're going to critique it on social media. If you cannot be scrutinized, you should not do content. I'm not exempt from it. People scrutinize me. It doesn't happen as often as him, but I'm going to tell you why it happens with him, because he put his personal business out there. You put your personal business out there, it's going to come under scrutiny a lot more than an educational channel in trucking that's talking about business. I get scrutinized when people disagree with shit. And then I'll drop the link and we'll have a debate, and 100% of the time I'm going to win, because most of the people who get upset, they get upset because they thinking with emotions instead of logic. And this is how I set people up all the time. I do sit and I say shit that's going to trigger them, because they're part of this young generation. They're going to respond in their emotions. They're going to click that link because they're clicking that link out of emotions instead of logic. And when they come up here, I'm going to make them look like a fool, like I always do. And I don't care about nothing else. But when you put your personal shit on the big screen for monetization, then people are going to scrutinize it and criticize it, and they have every right to. Just like being a business owner. The reason why that shit don't bother me, because if you ever see any success in business, especially when you're dealing with your own people, everybody knows that as a business owner, especially at scale, you're gonna have a percentage of your employees that just hate you. They're gonna smile in your face and they're gonna talk bad about you behind your back. Why? Because there's gonna come a time where they may have had a plan on something and you threw a monkey wrench in that plan. That person could be the guy who is on one of the moving trucks, but he's the helper. I called the driver. Look, I got a customer that called last minute. It's a 1-bedroom. I know y'all on y'all last one, but man, I need this one done. I'm gonna pay y'all extra $10 an hour. If the driver say, yeah, we gonna do it, then he the helper. He ain't got no choice. Y'all way far away from the yard. You already done called your girl and told her to get that thing ready. Now I'm all type of bitch ass niggas because I called and the driver, he about that bread. And because you in a position where you just a helper because you don't have a driver's license, whatever the case may be, Now you got to go do this extra job. Even though you getting paid, man, he got us out here working, man. Man, he ain't out here. Man, I had shit to do, man. Man, fuck this shit, man. Fuck that nigga, man. Man, why he ain't call another team and ask them that they want to do it? Why he always got to call us, man? Man, I can't stand that motherfucker, man. Fuck that bitch ass nigga, man. Come along with the game. Because as soon as that motherfucker get to the yard, you know what? All right, Mark, appreciate that. You got me on the schedule tomorrow? All right, Mark, you have a good night, man. Make sure you drive home safe. It's truck talk. It's criticism. It's scrutiny. Why? Because you the big dog. And you made them go do something that they didn't want to do. It happens. If you don't want scrutiny, go crawl up under a rock. Oh, shit. Miss Lacey, shout out to Miss Lacey. Who else we got in here? Shout out to T Beezy. Shout out to Ro. Man, notification not working. Yeah, YouTube and everybody been sending notifications, been tweaking. Who's bigger than me in my market? A bunch of people. I retired 3 years ago. He must be new to the channel. He must be new. But I've been retired for 3 years now, bro. He new to the channel, so let's give him a rundown. I'm gonna tell you what happened, big dog. I'm gonna tell you what happened. It's gonna piss some people off. I started in 2010. I worked really, really hard because I was disciplined and I sacrificed a lot. Like Daniel said, I was very intentional, right? And I worked extremely hard. I sacrificed, right? I worked hard, really, really hard. Pandemic hit and trucking exploded. And as a business person, there was an opportunity that presented itself due to the ignorance in social media, sort of kind of like what we're talking about now, where a lot of influencers were promoting trucking, right? Volume had skyrocketed because of the supply chain disruption. When things stopped, people were home, and then when supply chain started to pick back up, and you couple that with all the free money, the PPP, and all the other programs where people were getting unemployment, federal unemployment, state unemployment, and just all those other things, plus the scams, people had money, right? So the economy exploded. When the economy exploded, we needed more trucks. So rates went up, right? Because the volume went up. So trucking became popular. Ignorant people that were coming into trucking to take advantage of those high paying rates started to do content on it as well. And they started to so-called teach. The problem was these people were very, very new themselves, and they really didn't understand the landscape of the industry. They didn't even understand that the rates that they were getting at that particular time, this wasn't what trucking in a normal market looked like. It was only going to last for so long. It was a bubble, and eventually that bubble was going to burst. So a lot of people came in ignorantly. I talked to people on this channel that, leverage their homes, that took money from their kids' college funds, and all tried to cash in on this big trucking boom. Social media was just pumping and influencing and shit like that. And then in 2022, the market started to correct itself. They had a good year. Me being a smart businessman, understanding the landscape of business as far as opportunity, having to come back in the field. Why? Because people had money. So talent was hard to come by. A lot of the people that were working for me weren't working because they didn't want to come to work. My business is in the hood. So a lot of these guys had got PPP and shit like that. The last thing they needed to do now was come carry furniture for me. And seeing the mindset shift to what we see now with this Dante kid and with Daniel, there was a level of uncertainty of whatever this thing that we were in at that particular time. This is what I was thinking one day. I'm out back in the field. I haven't been on a truck in 7 years. So I'm back out in the field. Why? Because I got to do what I got to do. I got trucks sitting. So I got to get back out there. Whatever this shit is in, this COVID thing that they're talking about that we're in, one, I don't know how long we're going to be in it. And two, where is people's mindset going to be after it's over? Because it was promoted so heavily on the internet, people started buying trucks. So just like the car market back then, like you go to a car dealership, there were no cars on the lot anymore because people had money, they were buying used cars. People were buying trucks, so there were no trucks. So because there was such a demand and there was no supply, used truck prices shot through the roof. Me having a scale business at that time and, people not wanting to work, and I'm looking at the price of trucks that I purchased a decade ago, I'm able to sell those trucks for more than what I bought them for 10 years ago. And with all the mileage and wear and tear for more than I paid for them 10 years ago, only a fool wouldn't take advantage of that situation. So I had a decision to make. Do I ride this thing out because all my trucks are paid for? Obviously, I'm paying the insurance on them. Ride this thing out that I've never lived through before. I've never seen the uncertainty, or take advantage of these depreciating assets, and I can sell them at an appreciated value, 2-3 times the amount I paid for them 10 years ago. Keep a couple as an insurance policy, sell off all the assets, make all this money, and just get out. That's what I decided. I set a date, which was December of 2022, and I proceeded to work. I worked so hard during the pandemic because not only people didn't want to work, the people that I was bringing on to work during that time, I had some guys that were still with me prior to the pandemic, but the most of them had gone. They were just balling. But the people that I was hiring during the pandemic, they just weren't worth a hill of beans. They were people like what we see in like the Dantes and the Daniel type guys. Me being back out in the field, not having to be out there for 7 years, I'm 40 years old now, 40, 41, 42. So it's not like how it was when I was out there when I was first getting started those first 3 years, when I was 30, 31, and 32. So I'm older and I'm working extremely hard. Harder than I worked the first 3 years. Why? Because even with me still being out there and bringing new people on, I would have jobs scheduled, 3-man jobs, and guess what? The people that I was bringing on weren't showing up. And there was just no overflow. So I remember doing 3-man jobs with just 2 men. So now I'm overexerting my body. Whole time I'm selling everything. I had gotten to a point where I had just worked so hard that my body started to fail. Because I'm working 7 days a week, 6-7 days a week, and I'm working. Threw my shoulder out. Shoulder still ain't the same. Fucking around with a goddamn armoire and a Caesar statue. Some rich guy ordered this Caesar head statue that was made out of concrete, and it was huge, and he wanted it set on a mantle, and it was a head, and it weighed like 300 or 400 pounds, but it was just a head. and it had like a rod, and then we had to set it into the stand. The rod goes into the stand. The problem is it was sitting on a mantle, and we had to lift it and set it down, but it was a reach. So now we got all this weight. Just once we reached out so far, it's on the shoulders, and that was just a lot of weight. That's where I ended my shoulder, I think, initially, and then it just went kaput one day on a move with this just huge arm wire. It just was telling me this, it was it. So I ended up looking at the calendar, and I was booked out to October, and I just cut the calendar off. I had made my money. I think I had sold, by the time I sold majority of trucks, I had 3 trucks still remaining that originally I wanted to keep just as an insurance policy, but then I ended up selling one more. I still have 2 trucks to today, and I took the money and I ran, and that was 3 years ago. The last I sold everything and I walked away clean October 2022, and I haven't looked back. And I've just been this freedom thing that everybody wants to talk about. I just been indulging in that for the past 3 years. I found YouTube within that time, and I started to just talk about my journey and just, talk to younger people where, I could give them insight on this industry to help them be successful. And obviously at that time we were coming off the pandemic, and a lot of people's minds that were coming in at that time were similar to how some of these people think now. Like what I was telling them, it didn't resonate with them because what a lot of their favorite influencers were telling them was completely false. But what they didn't realize is that they understand now, because I've been on YouTube for a while now. They didn't realize there's a difference from a person that has tenure in an industry versus that's giving them information versus a person who literally is giving them information and they're coming into the industry simultaneously at the same time that they are. And that's why a lot of people got misled at that time. Right. I hadn't showed a lot of receipts at that time. I just came in just telling. So I got met with a lot of flack, and then a lot of those people failed, and they had to come back and tuck their tail and said they wish they would have listened, this, that. And you still have those people, but ultimately I'm a good business person, and when I see opportunity, I take it. I also made a lot of money during that time period in crypto and stock. So I just sold and I walked away scot free, and that's what it is. So welcome to the channel. There's your brief summary. Miss Lacey said clapping cheeks should be the last thing on people's mind in this economy. I think true, especially if you ain't got no money and you a guy. I think the first thing you need to do is find you some money before you worry about clapping some cheeks. You did what I'm saying, so it is what it is. All right, time for me to hit the gym again. Appreciate everybody for watching. How many people we got? And make sure you guys hit that like button. And if you got offended by what I said earlier as it pertains to work versus, entrepreneurship, you are the person I'm talking about. Because I'm telling you, it's not easy. It's worse than work. It's harder than work. And if you don't have that discipline, it's just not going to work for you. And you're going to be competing. A guy like me, I'm not going to have to show you no mercy when it comes to business. I'm not going to show you no mercy. I teach people don't show people mercy in business. It's business. It's not personal. The story that I just told is a great example. And see, this is why I could just talk forever. Even the story that I just told about the pandemic, that's uncertainty. Nobody knew a pandemic was coming. And this is why Daniel said, when he talked last night, he said, you're intentional. If I wouldn't have done what I did as far as being responsible and purchase trucks the way I did, even though a lot of people, they listen to these new content creators that are young and they tell them how to buy equipment and buy new. And I always say, no, buy older, used equipment to help alleviate your costs. Pay cash. Don't acquire another truck until the previous truck that you purchased that has recouped, right? That has recouped from the initial investment, recoup that money, and then recycle that money into paying. Once you go in your pocket the first time, you shouldn't have to go into your pocket again. The pandemic hits. Look at all the people that may have came into business prior to the pandemic that didn't take care of their responsibilities the right way, or they didn't do what they were supposed to do. So now this unforeseen situation hits and they're over leveraged, whatever the case may be. And then they wishing when the opportunity was there, right? Because we were making good money in 2015, 2016, 24, especially in the moving industry. We were making money. Why? Because we made money on people losing their home after '08. It's an unfortunate thing, but this business, we made a lot of money off people losing their home from '08, right? Because people didn't really start losing their home until '09, 2010, when they actually started having to move out with foreclosure. We made all that money. And then when the economy started to get better around 2015, 2016, we made all that money moving people back in. Those people that lost their homes, they've gotten their shit back together now and they're trying it over again. The economy was booming at that time. 2016, 2017, 2018, a great time to be alive. So that whole stretch, especially in the moving and the final mile industry, it wasn't nothing but money. We got the money on the loss. We made the money on the comeback. Then 2020 hits. If the person who was in that industry, they were just making that money and they thought it was going to keep coming and they didn't appropriate those funds correctly, they didn't pay off their equipment, so on and so forth. They didn't take care of their responsibilities. I took care of all my responsibilities. So when 2020 hit, my assets are paid for. I don't owe anybody. I can sell my shit. I got the titles to my shit. I bought my crib. I didn't not take advantage of the opportunities. I did what I was supposed to do. You have to be intentional. You have to be disciplined. I've only moved one time in my life, out my mama's crib into this place that I got in 2014. Everything is done intentionally. Patience, sacrifice, hard work. Because when things happen, which they will, you want to be prepared for them. You don't want to be the person that says, man, I wish I would have did this when the money was good. Man, I fucked up all that money when the shit was coming in, and now look at me. I wish I would. Nah, it's too late. I wish I would have did right and bought me a place when the market was low, and I was making so much money in 2014 it was ridiculous. And guess what? The market was low. I'm positive in this place. I bought this place 2014. It was a steal back then. If I wouldn't have did what I was supposed to do, I would have been pissed. I had all this money coming in. I didn't buy no assets. I didn't invest in no stock. I didn't invest in this. I didn't invest in that. And this is why people get mad. Man, Mark, all you do is sit on there and talk shit. You, what, NW Loot, man, you already made it out the trenches, man. You could have made it too. Life is about choices and decisions. Don't get mad at me because we the same age and you decided to do that and I said, no, I'm gonna put my head down and I'm just gonna work really, really hard. I'm gonna sacrifice the shit that you making fun of me for. That's what I sacrificed. So now you still trying to figure the shit out and I'm just sitting here looking at you. But you making fun of me and you the one that's really fucked up out here. So don't let nobody, deter you. Just stay disciplined, just sacrifice. And this is my positive message for the week. And that's it. Shout out to Andre. Appreciate that super chat. or whatever. What is this? Sticker, super sticker.
Sweet.
608 say he bought his house 2020, right? Miss Lacey, great live. Appreciate your commentary. I appreciate all the like-minded folks in the chat. Sosa say looking for a way out itself. Yeah, business is about opportunity. It's even like, see, shit like this I like talking about. I hate having to talk about cost and shit like that. Business is about opportunity, bro. Buying opportunity, exiting opportunity. Buy low, sell high. Never get caught left holding the bag. Nothing lasts forever. I had to realize that. Luckily, I was in a position where I realized it early on. I didn't realize it due to a situation. That's why when the pandemic hit and I was weighing, do I wait to see what happens or do I take advantage of this opportunity that never happens? Depreciated assets that depreciate, you can sell it mark like appreciated at appreciated value. That never happens. So even though it was a difficult decision, right? Because I'm not a mind reader, I just always think about lessons that I learned from reading to studying and just life. What's that Warren Buffett quote that I always tell people? Let's see who know it before I get out of here. What's that Warren Buffett post? I mean, quote. What's that Warren Buffett quote? Let's see who get it before I get out of here. Anybody? I'm gonna make you go do some research. I ain't gonna give it away. What's that Warren Buffett quote that I always say on the channel? When people are greedy, you should be fearful. And when people are fearful, you should be greedy. If you just take that quote and put it in your back pocket whenever you get into a place where you got to make a decision, and it's similar to uh the time period that we were living in during the pandemic. Even if you're an investor, stock, crypto, shit like that, those are in that's a good quote that will help you make the right decision, because there's always indicators. When people are fearful, you should be greedy. When people are greedy, you should be fearful. When the market is at the top, let's say like when it was during the pandemic, when everybody was greedy, what those ignorant people didn't realize is that the real money had already been made. So if you had already been in and you had made the money, you're seeing your money being made. Now it's the time to exit and get out, because it's only a matter of time before it starts crashing down. When people are fearful, you should be greedy. Normally, this is when a market decline, and this presents the best opportunity to buy, because you're able to buy assets at a low cost and then be patient and ride it back up to when people are greedy. And then that's when you sell. The object is the plan is to buy low and sell high, and this is in anything. And that's what I thought of at that particular uh, time as well. Yep. So all right, man. time for me to hit the gym. I appreciate everybody for checking in. Make sure you hit the like button on the way out. Be safe. Peace.